Welcome to the Omi Show. I am Omi Bell. You know what time it is. And today, our guest is Rachel Topping, a brand expert from the DMV with a passion for creating safe space and generational wealth for people of color. Rachel's career at the crossroads of design, culture, and fashion includes pivotal roles in Complex Magazine, AOL, Combs Enterprises, and Rock Nation. Formerly shaping the identity of luxury shoe brand by Tamara Mellon, Rachel now leads as a CEO and CCO of the Nappy Head Club. Is it the Nappy Head Club or Nappy Head Club?
Nappy Head Club.
Okay, Nappy Head Club in Brooklyn, and is on a mission to marry brilliant design with cultural relevance. Also, it's just Rachel's eye and like understanding of brand being able to vibrate a feeling and a message and all of that is just hands down amazing and truly like out of this world. She's from outer space. Everybody, welcome to the show. Rachel Topping. Hey, girl.
Hey.
So I'm so glad you could join us because I've had the opportunity to witness your genius firsthand. I guess one on just what we worked together on you helping me launch the podcast, and then also with you being a part of the BGV pitch competition. So I think like I'm curious as to like you could be doing anything in the world. You could be climbing Mount Everest. You could be sailing the seven seas. You could be hand gliding. What? Why did you decide to? One, I would say like let's take it a step back. Why did you even decide to get into design at all? And then what led you to launching Nappy Head Club?
Yeah, I think I've always been a builder. Like, ever since I was little, it's always if I like something, if I'm interested in it, how do I make that? Or how do I make that better? Or here's my version of I've always been kind of very hands on wanting to build things. So when it comes to like graphic design originally, I was doing a lot of poetry and writing. So I was on like my school's journalism club. And again, it's like, how do I build this? Well, how do I lay out the newspaper for my school? And I'm using these programs to like lay out the newspaper. I'm like, oh, this is fun. Like, what is this? I didn't even know what it was called. And I'm on like Ask Jeeves or something like, what am I doing? And it's like, this is graphic design. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. This is like art, but like building something. And like, I got really interested in graphic design from high school. So I went to a vocational school for graphic design back in high school. And then I went to college for graphic design. I've been doing it ever since. And then it kind of evolved from like design to storytelling and branding, and that kind of became the thing that I was most interested in, was like this idea of telling a story visually. So that's kind of what got me into this space. But with Nappy Head Club specifically, it was actually an accident, I would say. I think it wasn't like one day I woke up and I said, I want to have a brand. I think it was little baby steps of just interest kind of like culminating together. So my sister and I had like just for fun, had started an Instagram account. At the time, I think it was called 4C Only Club. We were venting to each other about how the natural hair community did not show all shapes and sizes of Blackness and how important that is for people to see themselves represented, especially in something like a natural hair community where this is supposed to be affirming Blackness. However, it shows up and it's showing a very specific version of Blackness. So joking around, we were like, you know what? Every time we see somebody with type 4 hair, like 4C hair, within the fashion, beauty, whatever, we're going to just share it and show how like fabulous we are, because we need to see that representation to like see ourselves and see a higher version of ourselves. So it was just an Instagram account. We were just posting stuff. And at the time I was branding a few different brands. So I was working with Morgan of Blavity, helping her brand out a few of her brands that she owns. And we were just kind of like talking, and she's saying, well, what are you working on? I'm like, oh, I got this Instagram account. It's just fun. And she's looking at the engagement and she's like, you've done the hardest part, which is find the community and find your customers. And she was like, you need to monetize this. Like, look at how engaged these people are, how devoted they are to this community. So then we just started with like a t-shirt. We were like, well, let's kind of play off of this feeling of like inclusion, bring it into like fashion pieces. I have a fashion background. My sister has a fashion background. So it was like a natural place to go with it, because I wasn't seeing a lot in that space that would still look good. Like, no, no offense to anybody out there, but like, especially 5-6 years ago, pro-Black apparel was very tacky, very loud, and I come from a design background. I come from clean lines, like smart design. I wanted to like merge that so that this could be a piece that I want to wear, but also it's like for us. So that was kind of the inspiration. And then, fast forward 5, 6 years later, now it's like a full-fledged business, like a clothing brand, and I think what makes it special is that it wasn't me trying to like force this thing down people's throat. It was kind of like them almost asking for it. Like, how do I buy something? How do I support? How do I become a part of this community more like physically? And then being able to like solve that felt really beautiful.
So a lot of people would say that like nappy head. So it's interesting because 4C only is actually a product. I actually own that
Yeah,
product.
yeah, yeah. I've worked with them, and I
Oh,
love
okay,
their
good,
products.
good, good. Because
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like, oh, I love that product. It's actually great for my daughter's hair, so I
yeah.
use it in
Mhm.
her hair.
Mhm.
Um, but what inspired the name Nappy Head Club? Like a lot of people would say, like nappy head is actually a negative term or derogatory
Yeah.
term that people are actually trying to get away from. Your hair, people being considered nappy or their hair being considered nappy. So, what caused you to or inspired you to call it Nappy Head Club?
Yeah, I think so. Once we realize, okay, this is a business, this is a brand, then my branding cap comes on, right? And I'm like, okay, if we're building a fashion brand that is meant for like millennials, people who see themselves as like stylish, on top of the trends, like let's build something provocative. Provocative brings the people in, and I think that using a word like nappy, it sparks a little bit of this uneasiness, and it's bringing us to conversation. So, I've done so many pop-ups where the first thing people see is the name of the brand, and they're like nappy, and you see their head go through all these feelings. They're like, my hair's not nappy. Well, yeah, my hair is nappy, but I love it, and this, and you know what? I do, yeah, yeah, and just it's about reclaiming narrative. It's about like taking the power away from something and turning it into something exclusive. Also, the idea is that not everybody's a part of the Nappy Head Club. And that's also something very special to be able to say, you know what? This is cool. And I'm actually really happy that I do have nappy hair so I can be a part of the Nappy Head Club, because the community of people who've been told their hair is nappy have been being told to assimilate and come over here and fix yourself to be a part of this like mainstream community where it's like now I've created something that's for them. That's like, no, 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 we're really like we're fine over here. We're actually better than fine over here. Look how cool it is to be a part of this community. So it's like flipping that on its head is kind of the power of the brand in a way.
Hmm. Okay. So what about so how effective do you think inclusive lifestyle brands like Nappy Head Club are in not just offering products but also building a sense of community and empowerment? What kind of things have you seen? Like what tell us a little bit about like the ins and outs. So like do you join a club and you get exclusive drops? Do you actually buy a garment and now you're a part of the club? Do you like what does it mean to create a sense of community through a lifestyle brand?
Yeah, I think so. The entry point is just being a fan. The entry point is like having a piece. I get a lot of messages where people are like, oh, my cousin has your shirt, and I told her that I got my shirt at this thing. It just becomes this very exciting thing to say how you first discovered, how did you become a part of it. And I think that's like the community element is like the if you know, you know. If you understand why it's important for Nappy Club to exist and you feel yourself empowered by wearing it, the next person who sees you wearing it, they get it, and then they're like, oh, okay, now I'm a part of this. Like, like we understand the game, we understand like why this is important for us and that not everyone's going to get that. So I think that's what makes it this community element. And I think we play into that with conversations and dialogues, kind of this idea of like now that we're in the house, we can have conversations that, we want to have. Yeah, so it's like bringing in those elements of like having conversations that you can't have everywhere, conversations about like within the Black community, things that we're working on, things like that. And I think that's what builds in this like community element. Um, yeah.
So speaking of conversations that we can have in the house, we talk about it in the house, don't take it outside the house. But those conversations, like what happened in this house, you don't talk about nowhere else. I love that idea. And this house being a sort of global diaspora
Yeah.
kind of understanding of like what we know. And
Yeah.
so on the Nappy Head Club IG, there was a post where the question was asked if Black mothers are more lenient on their sons versus their daughters. I
Mm-hmm.
would love to hear your point of view and your own experience in your own life. And then, like, what did you see happen in the IG during that conversation?
Whew. Well, we we take the hard road a lot of times with these really difficult conversations, because like the easy way to have a brand is to never ruffle feathers, just say things that are very like light and agreeable, but the whole point of this is for us to build and grow as a community. And surprise, like actually this topic came about not from my personal experience, but we had a writer reach out and said, hey, I have this topic that I want to write about. Her name is Jasmine Robinson. I want to talk about my experience growing up in a family and how I was treated differently as a girl than my boy brother was. And the article she had already written it was beautiful, and it was really eye opening to me because I was raised in a house of girls, so I hadn't had that juxtaposition. But once I read this article, I'm like, man, is this like really a thing that's going on for a lot of people? And then I'm kind of doing investigation. I'm seeing TikToks and stuff of people all talking about the same topic, and I'm like, this is exactly why the brand exists. One, because I'm learning too. Every perspective is not like my own personal perspective. So I was like, well, I want to continue this conversation. Let's see if other people feel similarly. This one in specific, I didn't see too. I mean, we posted topics where everyone's at each other's throats. This one, a lot of people were just like, yes, I've experienced that. It's crazy, da da da. And I'm just reading these comments like, wow, I didn't realize how prevalent this was. We've also talked about parentification, which I feel like, I've experienced, and I think a lot of Black people have experienced, which is like having to become an adult or like be a parent, like raise your other siblings or things like that very early on, and that happening often within the Black community. I feel like I can relate to the experience through parentification and like having a sick mother and having to kind of like be the head of the household at a very young age. Um, but yeah, it was just really eye opening to just see everyone be like telling their experiences too of like things that have happened to them or how they had to raise family members. And the point is really just to like for us to have awareness. And I try so hard to make sure that there's like male presence and voice within our conversation. So I really try to rein in that like Black male community. So on a good day, we have some like Black males also chiming in about like their perspective and their experience being raised within a Black household. But yeah, it was really eye opening to see how many people have had that experience personally.
And it's interesting to bring it through fashion because I feel like we have a lot of that conversation through comedy.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those hard hitting kind of conversations where people just like make up the skits and you looking at the skit like, yep, I know somebody just like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really interesting. In what ways do you think representation in mainstream media impacts individual self image and self perceptions of beauty?
Yeah, I mean, so for my personal experience, like growing up, I had a lot of like, I struggled with self worth because these things that I found really interesting, like fashion and beauty and stuff, I didn't see people who look like me in there. I didn't see people with 4C hair, who are also, there's a lot of features. Like, of course, the brand is called Nappy Club, but it's really representing just like Blackness and like identity in Blackness. So, like, being a curvier person, I didn't see in these fashion spaces people like me who were like, in high achieving roles, which there's probably studies done about like if your body, certain body types, like being an exec or whatever. So I just like personally, I really struggled to feel like I could fit in these spaces that I thought were really cool because I just didn't see anyone who looked like me in those spaces. And as I've been building out Nappy Club and starting to pitch and speaking to people, I've been doing research and just trying to kind of like validate these feelings that I felt. And there have been studies done that people who don't see representation of themselves do not succeed as far as people who do, because it's like your child brain needs to form ideas of like what's possible, and when you don't see anyone like you, you kind of you just kind of start to assume that's not possible for you. So it's super important. And I think within fashion specifically, like the idea, most brands kind of are selling like a community. Most fashion brands are selling like a vision of someone's lifestyle. So, for instance, this top is from Paloma Wool. Paloma Wool is this very European Spaniard woman with beautiful furniture who lives in like this beautiful home. And she's selling that experience as like, when you buy from this person, her name is the name of the brand. So you're thinking about this woman and this community. And that, in a way, is like representation for them. So for me, Nappy Head Club is my way of creating a version of that that's like, this is a community, this brand represents us being successful, us being proud, us having these things. So that's why I felt like it was really important to add that voice into the spectrum of voices in fashion, because there's a lot being sold to us, but not a lot of us. There's not that many
Mm.
brands that are actually of the Black community, affirming the Black community.
So I love that you said that because I was going to ask the question about translation. And so what you just said about the wool company and the woman, and you see her in the the quote unquote soft environments or like the really chic and clean, what it looks like for her to be living in a certain way. I like that. So, what does that representation look like in when you say represent a black community? Like, are there lines? Are there colors? Is it like talk to me a little bit about like how do you translate that through the garment or through like even what you're showing? Like, I don't know,
Yeah,
are they
yeah.
all are they like in because when McDonald's wants to sell to us, I remember looking at the smoothie commercial when they launched the smoothies and it was like all black people and slow moving, videos and like they were like playing pool and it like the idea of cool
Mm-hmm.
and smooth translating to blackness and the way they leverage that. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The if you selling a Happy Meal, it's a quirky white mom and her kid. If you're selling the, you know what I mean? So like, how are you translating that at Nappy Head Club? Like, what is that visual that we can give to the audience in words? You can also go to the IG, which is it Nappy Head Club?
Yeah, at Navigator
Okay.
Club. I love this question because this is really now I'm in my branding bag, right? So I feel like for Nappy Club, I also had to get very specific about like, is this is like, okay, who is your audience? And it's like millennial black folk that love fashion. And like, okay, so this is like my person. And I think for me, it's juxtaposing like black stories, black experiences through the visuals because like even the visuals that you see on fashion, they default like Eurocentric. So if it's like a painting or a face, it's going to always be like a white person, a white face. Or so like doing something as subtle as like this scarf, which has very clean lines, it's made of silk, but it says good hair. And it's not something that like you need to like read it immediately when you see it. You could just say that's a nice scarf, but then there's that extra layer of like storytelling that this is a black product. This is a product for black people. But I think I try to juxtapose that with quality. And I think that's what people see a lot and they're really excited is, oh my God, this is really well made. This is French terry. This is silk. And that's kind of like letting folks know that you deserve this quality. I try not to be too prescriptive in like what this black person looks like. I try to be really diverse. I try to show different genders, different complexions, just different versions of what blackness looks like. But it's a fashion brand, so I like to go for little edgier looks, showing people that you don't have to be like this picture perfect, beautiful. I like to show all body types, and I think I keep it really simple and just let the message be like the people, how beautiful they are, how carefree they are, and then just like the quality of the product, like how well it's made so that you can kind of insert yourself into the brand. But like once you see the good hair scarf, you already feel inserted because you're like, yeah, my hair is good hair. And then you see these beautiful black people that affirm you, and you're like, I'm sold.
I love that. I'm so excited. I'm about to go buy some stuff. You know what I'm saying? Because I need to be. Look, if you, I don't know if you're on TikTok Shop or any of that, but TikTok Shop
Yes,
makes
we
it so
are. We
easy.
on
Oh
TikTok.
my god, I need to be stopped. Okay, I buy so many little
It's
crazy stuff
crazy.
from there. It doesn't even make sense. So we're gonna keep talking to Rachel after the break. We're gonna go into the Ask Omi segment, so things will flip. I will be in the hot seat, and Rachel will get to ask me whatever she wants to ask me, which is interesting coming from a Brandon person. So I'm excited to I'm excited to have this conversation. You listen to the Omi Show. Keep it locked right here. We're gonna be right back after this with the Ask Omi segment. Yeah, I'm excited. You listen to the Omi Show. Keep it locked right here. We'll be right back. In our last segment, you had a chance to hear the remarkable journey of our guest, Rachel Topping. And now it's time for the Ask Omi segment where we turn the tables and give our founders, our guests, an opportunity to ask me anything. Okay, it could be about business strategy, it can be about personal insights, it could be about my weekend plans. Anything that they want to ask me is open. I have no idea what she's gonna ask me either. So I'm just gonna I'm gonna give you the floor. So go ahead, Rachel.
Okay. I'm excited. This is my first time hosting. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. Let's see. My first question is for you, like, what was your journey in the room, like getting into the room? I feel like I've seen recently that you all have raised and you've partnered with huge brands. So it's like, what has your journey been to be able to get into those rooms, to be able to like make these deals? Like, was this like, what places, what spaces did you have to kind of like insert yourself into to be able to get to this space? As someone who's like looking to looking to find investors, like I'm curious about how you got into these rooms.
Yeah, it's a great question. In the beginning, like when I was shooting in the gym, okay, when I didn't have
Uh-huh.
anything yet, I so there was this group called FemX. It's a volunteer group. Now I think they still exist, but it was a volunteer group of all women. You spend 15 weeks just talking about being a woman, all parts of being a woman, everything from physical parts, getting married, having everything. And a friend of mine was like, we should go and be a part of this group. And I'm like, Psh, I have two kids, and at that time she didn't have a kid. I'm like, I have to trek to DC to be a part of this group, right? But I'm not knowing who else is going to be a part of this group. But I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it. So I commit to it. I'm trekking to DC every Tuesday, finding ways to get my kids taken care of so I can go and be a part of this group. Through that group, I met this woman who was friends with this woman who worked at Google. And then that's how I started working with Google. So, and initially, that Google relationship, not only did it level up my business I had before this, which is a t shirt line, which we never
Mm-hmm.
actually talked about, but which is it,
No,
which
we
is a
have not.
t-shirt. Yeah. So I had I guess you can go, I didn't call it a fashion brand for me. It was just a t-shirt line, but also had leggings. We had infant body suits. In fact, the infant body suits made Essence Holiday gift card that blew us up. Like,
Okay.
so yeah, we never talked about that before, but yeah, so
Mm-mm.
through working with her is how I ended up doing swag for Google. Through working with the woman I was doing swag for Google with, when I got the Amazon deal, when I was going in, so I was doing swag for other companies and small festivals. I was printing for
Mm-hmm.
them. I printed
Mm-hmm.
for another small festival, and then somebody they knew needed something and happened to be Amazon. So
Mm-hmm.
like I didn't know what to go to Amazon with, so I went to my contact at Google, which we had become friends, and I said, "Hey, if I was going to approach you at Google, what would you think about this deck?" She gave me feedback, and then I took that deck and I pitched it to Amazon, and then I got an Amazon deal, right? So
Mm-hmm.
like that, and this is before Black Girl Ventures. So proximity, sometimes you have to sacrifice for, sometimes you have to pay for proximity. And sometimes you're paying for proximity or engaging or sacrificing for proximity in rooms where the price point means everybody ain't gonna be there. And I'm not saying that you're basing it off of that, but like there are certain trade shows or conferences that have like they cost like $1,500 to get into, $1,200 to get into. These are places where not they're not everybody they are doing that on purpose because
Mm-hmm.
they want a certain level of person.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes research, scoping out who's gonna be in a place. Sometimes it's haphazard and you fall into it the way I fell into that group with FemX. But that group with FemX shifted my perspective on how to
Mm-hmm.
navigate the world and how to have conversations with people.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is one of the first times I was a part of a group that wasn't like all black people. Nobody in there
Mm-hmm.
was black but me.
Mm-hmm.
It was another black girl in it, and then she ended up leaving. But it was diverse in other ways. And so they helped me learn how to hold space for people. Like that's not I
Mm-hmm.
didn't grow up with that. That's not something
Mm-hmm.
that my family does. They helped me understand how to listen to people different, how to reshape my articulation. That is what helped me get into the rooms. Understanding how to articulate, understanding how to remove myself and be subjective and objective as possible, even though what somebody's saying to you is a microaggression.
Mm-hmm.
George Floyd's murder unlocked a lot of people just coming to us.
Mm-hmm.
But prior to that, it was me researching, scoping out the rooms, paying for proximity, um, asking for what I want, like being really open and setting clear expectations, just asking. Like once I started doing the work with Nike, I remember being in a room and they were showing me like, hey, we want to do this with you, and we want to do this. Now, mind you, it's a big brand and it's Nike, so I'm playing it cool, like, oh, okay, yeah, okay. But in my mind, I'm thinking, oh my god,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? But I'm also thinking, how am I gonna leverage this to the best of my ability?
Mm-hmm.
Because I could just take the money, go head down and do programming. I'm not doing that. I'm not gonna be connected to the largest storytelling brand in the world and just let them give me some dollars and go do. That's not me
Right.
because I'm a storyteller at heart. So I'm
Right.
like, nah. So I think it's also like everything you get and how you leverage it. You
Mm-hmm.
have worked with so many brands, right? Like your ability to be like, well, when I worked on this, I did that, which is the reason why I do this. That's through the roof. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? Like hands down, nobody can match that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you work with so many brands that, and it's not. I think sometimes it's not like bragging. Oh, I work with this brand, because really the brand is like that's the thought.
Mm-hmm.
You put the thought into the things. So it's not even about naming them. It's really about showing your thought process when working with whoever you work with, and that's no different in the brand that you work with.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it is about name dropping. Let me be clear. This whole thing is about people. None of this moves without people. People
Yeah.
hire people, people fund people, people like people give to people, people bring people in. You gotta be likable.
Yeah.
You gotta be likable.
Yeah.
Being authentic in these rooms is why some people bring me. I can't verify this, but I think that some people bring me to the room because they know it's about to be some bullshit, and they want somebody authentic in the room.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so I think that too. I think they know I'm gonna be the one that, like, if somebody say something sideways, I'm gonna be like, excuse me, did y'all mean? Is that what we doing? Can we? How can we think about this differently?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna do it in a way that's not threatening, but it's also not going without saying anything.
Yeah, that
It's
was going to be what
really
I asked you was like, how do you, now that you're in a lot of these spaces where you're standing up for marginalized, Black and minority founders in a room where there's none of them other than you, like, how do you like balance, especially now where things are cooling off since George Floyd and it's like kind of companies are a little bit less like eager and reaching out. Like, how do you balance like being that single voice in the room and like trying to be, not too aggressive for them or overwhelming for them, but also still very authentic? Like, what's your barometer for that?
be curious.
Okay.
When curiosity is yeah. When they say like kill people with kindness,
Mm-hmm.
if you had quote unquote soft weapons, then curiosity would be in your tool belt. You know what I mean? Like it would be on that. It would be on that in that harness is the thing you can pull out. I mean, really, because I think that you gotta want to learn, right? Like I think a huge part. If you look at any other successful business owners, they are really actually lifetime learners, right? Like I know people may, even like a Elon Musk, or they talk a lot of shit, but like really they are absorbing every possible thing they can learn from everything happening around them and people and all that. So I think that like curiosity has been a tool that I've been able to pull out and just ask. And sometimes the question, developing my articulation to be able to ask certain questions that cause people to go like, oh well, I guess I didn't think of it that way. Like they may not have a direct answer, but being able to stand up is somebody asked me like, do you want to change what people think, or do you want to change the way people act? And I'm like, that's an interesting question. I think I want to do a little bit of both. And
Mm-hmm.
they said, well, if you want to change the way people think, then you could be provocative. You can put out, messages that jar them. If you want to change the way they act, you have to be very clear and
Mm-hmm.
concise. Because you can act different even though you might not be thinking different. We may not care about stoplights for real, but the fact that they are there, it's very specific. You know exactly what to do with it. It's like this is the rule. Period. There's nothing to be questioned about whether or not it, even though you might speed through it, there's no question.
Yeah.
And therefore it can govern the way that we act, right? But if there's a debate around should there be stoplights, right? I'm just using that as an example.
Mm-hmm.
You can put out provocative messages about what stop means. You can put out provocative messages about control. Like, and that can shift the way somebody thinks. So I would say that my tool when it comes to standing up now is storytelling is one of them, but
Mm-hmm.
being curious.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I'm gonna
Yeah.
deploy that. Okay, now more personal. We were talking about representation. I feel like at this age, one of the things that I'm looking for more representation of is like entrepreneurs, business owners that are also mothers, and like trying to envision what that journey could look like for myself. Okay, mompreneur. But no, I just wanted to ask you, like, how do you find the balance? Like, what has this experience been like for you, juggling motherhood and entrepreneurship? And what would you say to someone who's like, I love being an entrepreneur and I want to continue to be an entrepreneur, and I'm nervous that I can't do that and be a mother as well? Or like, how can I do both?
Oof. Well, I think the position that you're in now is a great one. Like you're fairly established as an entrepreneur. You're still working through it, but I mean like you still have lots of things that are established. When I had my first child when I was 17, I had my second child when I was 21. So I've been a mom my whole adult life. I don't know anything else. And I think that like because of that, I was also growing up at the same time and I was making a lot of mistakes. You know, and I would say mistakes that I can't count as mistakes, but my kids can.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they say like nobody will remember that you work late with your kid.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that like when I was so focused on like I'm trying to make it. Like I'm trying to make it off of Section 8. I'm trying to make it out of all the statistics where that say I'm not gonna make it because I had kids young. I'm trying to. So I'm in college. You know, I graduated on time with a computer science degree.
That's
But
awesome.
like my like go mode, I would say it took me years to. excuse me. It took me years to even slow that down. And in some ways, I'm still in it. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like my go mode is like, let's go. You know, I will
Mm-hmm.
find a way. And so I did a lot. I mean, I'm a single parent. So I did things like, you know, I joined, you know, with my kids were in sports. I worked with other parents. Sometimes I kept their kids. Sometimes they kept my kids, you know,
Mm-hmm.
building community for yourself as a mom is super important. In the
Mm-hmm.
building I live in, we had like a mom community where like, you know, pre-pandemic, you know, if kids were getting off the bus, some mom was at the bus stop. Kids going down in the morning. If you late, if I'm late, and we all kind of help each other out. Like I think like you got to develop the same way you think about sense of community around the brand that you're building. You
Mm-hmm.
just got to remember to build a sense of community around you as well and around raise it take when they say it takes a village, that's the truth. You
Mm-hmm.
know, so I think it's building a sense of community, and there's multiple ways to do that. One, by your kid being included in certain things, you know, going to you know, having them enrolled in whatever type of classes or things. You end up, you know, communing and networking with other parents, and then you share in your experiences, and that's how you learn, you know, from each other. um you know, it's funny because last night I was thinking nobody knows everything because nobody knows everyone. So the more you get into community, the more you learn and know and are able to grow because we're all mirrors of each other in a way, and that's the key to life. Like, you know what I mean? Like this is crazy, but I'm a firm believer in the reason why we can't see ourselves is because we're really not actually supposed to. Like if you think
Mm-hmm.
about it, like before the idea of mirrors was created, the only thing you could see yourself in was water, and that was fluid.
Mm-hmm.
So your visual of yourself had wrinkles in it.
Mm-hmm.
Your visual of yourself had a murky base. You know, your visual of yourself at that point was really only through the eyes of other people.
Mm-hmm.
And so as a mom and getting around other moms and getting around people who may not be moms yet but love kids, but like feeling you start to see yourself as a different person.
Mm-hmm.
When you have every time you have a kid, you're a different body. You're not going to be the same body.
Mm-hmm.
So your body is nowhere near the same, you know. So and people, you understand this because you work with materials. When I used to do t-shirts, people would be like, oh yeah, well, I want this thing printed on the t-shirt. Okay, great. And then however, if you alter any piece of that art, it's not the same art.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, oh well, why I gotta pay for that? Because it's not the same art anymore. And now
Mm-hmm.
it's new art.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just remove something and be like, oh no, it's the same thing. It's not.
Mm-hmm.
So we also can't treat our lives that way.
Mm-hmm.
You add another element, it's a new life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what I didn't slow down to do enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just now getting an opportunity to slow down and do that.
So what does that look like for you? What does slowing down look like for you?
Oh Lord, help.
You like, why did I say
um,
that?
I think one, it is getting off. start with the simple things, right? Like I think we people be like, oh, I'm gonna take a trip. Oh, I'm gonna like I don't know about all that yet. All I know is I need to get off work
Mm-hmm.
as a CEO, as an entrepreneur, as having my own thing. I need to figure out when I'm off work. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that just starts with like um figuring out when I actually like to work. I like to work in general.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think enough women especially get to admit that openly. I like to work.
Yeah.
And I was a part of a CEO group, and we were like, "Look, I don't care about Coco Mellon. I don't. It doesn't matter to me what they do with this singing. When I like to work, and that's the reality for me. I like to work. Work makes me feel good. It's the thing I know I'm achieving at. Like I could be failing at motherhood, but I'm winning awards. I'm killing it over here at work. And sometimes you're not killing it at work because I still had to evolve as a leader. So slowing down first looks like getting off work. All right. Second thing is my youngest daughter is 9, and I realized that she doesn't think I can cook
Oh.
because I never cooked for her
Oh.
because we're either eating out or I had a chef before.
Yeah.
So she's like, "Oh, you can't cook," and I'm like, "What?" So I'm offended by that. So I decided that I'm gonna make sure that I cook
Mm-hmm.
now. So now I'm taking time
Mm-hmm.
to cook because I'm like, how is it that you're 9 and you don't know that I can cook?
Mm-hmm.
And I want her to know and have the story of my mom used to cook for me. Like I
Yeah.
want that for
Mm-hmm.
her. So I think that's that. I've also been taking a month off. I started last year taking a month off. And this is not easy, but I'm also realizing that I need more than a month. But that's been helpful
Mm-hmm.
to really have people in place. Right now, I'm hiring a COO, and I'm actively looking for a COO. And so I think that's also a thing, like knowing what your real skill is. Like I'm good at the visioning, storytelling, expansion,
Mm-hmm.
and I need someone who's a good operator and who loves operating.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I think like admitting to myself who I am. I know that like to me, I'm just a person. Like I look at it like, look, I'm just out here. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to help as many people as I can help. I'm trying to be the help that I needed.
Yeah.
And I don't think of it as any levels of celebrity or what it means to make it somewhere, any of that. I'm like, yes, I'm making more money than I used to make, but like I'm still me.
Yeah.
However, in that case, you can't take for granted the things that you do need and who you need around you.
Absolutely. Again, community, like
Community.
support people.
Support. You need yes people. You hear people out there, oh, people should have a bunch of yes people. That
You need a
bullshit.
couple.
I
You need
call
a
bullshit.
couple.
I want everybody around me being like, hell yeah, this job you got me in, I want to do this shit every day when I wake up
Yeah.
because I love it. That's what I
Mm-hmm.
want now. That gives you a break.
Yeah, it does. It does for sure. I'm on that
Yeah.
journey of trying to find my people, my team members, my support.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I love that.
Well, I love those questions.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. That was great. That was great. We're at the end of the show, but like, yeah, this Ask On Me segment has been really dope because I'm down to share as much as I possibly can that can be helpful for other people. And the guest segment helps people share all about what they're working on. So I love that.
Yeah.
So yeah, remember to get the book Originate, Motivate, Innovate 7 Steps of Building a $1 Billion Network on sale now wherever you buy your books. And you listen to the Omi Show. I'm Omi Bell. Thank you so much to our guest, Rachel Topic, and everyone helping to keep the show running. I really appreciate y'all.